And so as for the Sustainability Roundtable, which you see on the screen now, the idea was to have an open dialogue and discuss one of the hottest topics in plastics and packaging in general, which is undoubtedly sustainability. We've gathered some of IEF's, what we'd like to call sustainability experts, to give their opinions and their perspectives on all things sustainable packaging. We've also put together some related quotes, which you're going to see scrolling across your screen throughout the duration of this segment. So I'd like to introduce all of our panelists for today's discussion. When I introduce you guys, if you can just hop on and say hi to everyone. First, we have Sumita Ranganathan, who's our Senior Technical Manager.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon.
All right. Next up, we have Janet White, who's one of our sales reps here at IEF, who's very involved with, I guess, the ground level sustainability day to day. Janet.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Next, we have Nirav Desai, who is the plant manager of our Haramar plant.
Hello, everyone.
And last but not least, we have Steve Griggs, who's our sales director here at IEF.
Afternoon, everyone.
All right. Just to get the conversation started, we thought we would address the fact that sustainability has and continues to be one of the largest initiatives for the Inteplast group at large and IEF specifically. You may remember Dan Martino, who's our Senior Director of Texas Administration from the video you just saw. He would have loved to join us today, but he left us a recorded message instead. So I'm just going to play for you that message right now.
As part of our environmental program, Inteplast Group is privileged to be a member of Operation Clean Sweep Blue. It's a blue status, is actually an elevated status where we engage with the OCS team and also a small group of manufacturers that we're helping to establish new targets for the industry, new regulations for the industry, new guidelines for the industry. And it's quite a privilege to be involved with OCS Blue. OCS, or Operation Clean Sweep, at the core has a very simple approach to handling resin. I call it ZPL, and that's our big movement now here at Inteplast Group. ZPL, zero pellet loss. Why would you want to lose a pellet? You spent money for that pellet. Don't waste your money is the one aspect to look at it, but think about it from the environmental perspective, that we don't want uncontained pellets around the site, on the roads, in our rivers, lakes, or whatever it might be. So we continue to have extreme focus on Operation Clean Sweep, and it's invigorating to the soul when we walk into our facilities and we struggle to find a single pellet on the floor anywhere. And that's quite a chore because many of our facilities are using trillions upon trillions of individual pellets on a monthly basis. So kudos to our plants, keep up the great work, and keep every single pellet contained like it's supposed to be.
And so Dan is one of the Inteplast Group's most passionate members when it comes to the topic of sustainability. But in addition to Dan's comments, the Inteplast Group has made sustainability one of its main focuses since day one. On the screen now, you see our group president, Dr. John Young's vision statement from the early 90s, in which there's a direct reference to social responsibility, sustainable development, and care for the environment. With all that being said, I'm going to hand things over to our panelists to continue the discussion.
Thanks, Justin, for getting the introduction there and for putting up Dr. Young's the vision statement from when we were founded. The first time I read Dr. Young's statement, the vision statement, was when I was onboarding my first day as part of the IEF team. I was really struck by the fact that I was joining an organization that more than 25 years ago had made sustainability and concern for the environment a core value, right? And for us at IEF, I think our focus on sustainability is ingrained really into who we are because of that. As a result of that, we've been working for a while on a variety of products, barrier films, the challenges that come with those. We're working compatibilizers. We're looking at alternate barrier resins. We're also looking at compostable films, both and have compostable films, both home and industrial compostable solutions. And we have a line of our standard products that have recycled content, right? So a lot of different options from a product standpoint, but we're not just focused on products. We're also focused on technologies that maybe can make sustainability or sustainable products more practical. Things like MDO, a technology we're looking very hard at today. But what it really comes down to is it starts in our operations. That's where sustainability is really part of our day-to-day culture. Narav, can you give some examples of things you guys are doing in your plant that, you know, around sustainability that are part of your day-to-day?
Thank you, Steve. You know, sustainability initiatives are important for all the reasons you mentioned. Ideally, sustainability should be made part of existing GMP programs like HACCP, SQF, FDA, housekeeping, and safety. All this fit nicely together and complement each other. Sustainability initiatives can be started by ensuring you have a containment systems available inside and outside your facility. Start off with simple things like dedicated resin lines to reduce risk of spills, control hopper timings to eliminate the need for unloading the hoppers, use of heavy-duty tape in the warehouse if any bag or box is punctured, catch pens and screens when unloading the rail cars and trucks. You know, you can put a screen on all the stormwater drains to capture any pellet that escapes. As usual, the program's success depends on raising awareness, providing necessary tools, and it is important we all do our part at every level.
Thanks, Nirav, for an overview of our initiatives in our manufacturing facilities. I would now like to talk about the current reality of plastic packaging from a sustainability perspective. We are all familiar with the benefits of plastics. They are light, they are flexible, and they're also inexpensive. And so they've become a material of choice in many applications that range from the simple grocery bag, trash can liner, all the way up to high-tech applications in medicine and space exploration. And we all know that they are a material of choice when it comes to packaging. In terms of packaging, flexible films, they account for about 40% of packaging materials. Flexible packaging in particular has several sustainability benefits throughout their life cycle compared to other packaging formats like glass or metal. They are, excuse me, they're lighter, and so there's the obvious benefit of source reduction and material efficiency. In case of food packaging, there's the additional benefit of shelf life extension and preventing spoilage, and hence the wastage of precious food. They're very efficient as packaging materials due to the high product to package ratio, and with that comes the transportation benefits as well. And finally, less material means less of it is disposed of, which means less of it ends up as waste or litter in the environment. So overall, flexible packaging has beneficial life cycle metrics. So we certainly appreciate the benefits of plastics, but we also need to acknowledge their effect on the environment. And we are all familiar with the iconic 2016 National Geographic article, Planet of Plastic. And there were pictures of massive patches of plastic garbage floating in our oceans. And this is not acceptable. Just to give you an idea about the magnitude of the issue, in the 67 years that plastics have been around, and this is data from 1950 through 2017, 10 billion metric tons of plastic have been produced, and 6 billion metric tons have become plastic waste. And at this rate, if we do nothing, by 2040, almost 30 million metric tons will end up in the oceans per year. And so there is a major issue. This is not acceptable. Plastic waste is polluting our land masses and oceans. It's affecting marine and wildlife, and it's also getting into our food chain. And since majority of the plastics right now are from petroleum, we're also depleting our natural resources. So there is an absolute need for sustainable solutions along the packaging value chain, and we are all in it together. And having environmental laws and legislation would definitely help in designing sustainable packaging materials.
Here in the US, we're starting to see some legislation. We're far behind where the rest of the world is. But one of the things we do have is the extended producer responsibility. It's a policy approach where the brand owners and the retailers are given responsibility for the disposal of post-consumer products. And the goal really is just to get people to recycle more and to reduce the amount of packaging that we're all sending to the landfills. And also to provide a funding mechanism, I should say, to shift all or at least part of the recycling costs from municipalities and onto the packaging users. This usually means that brand owners, and that includes the retailers with private label brands, and ultimately the consumer, that we usually end up paying the fee. EPA legislations have been implemented in much of Europe. It's in Canada, it's in South Korea, it's in Japan, and other countries have also started developments with the legislation. But here in the States, we're just so far behind. Some of our US states have started exploring the development of packaging specific EPR programs going back as far as 2018, but none of the states have put anything into law. So Canada, as I was saying, is well ahead of us. Nirav, you're up in Canada. What do you see up in Canada?
Looking at the big picture, Canada appears to have a progressive agenda on sustainability. Current trends are a mix of legislative push and industry initiatives. Things like encouraging a more circular economy, which captures and retains the value of plastics across the life cycle, establishing recycled content requirements in products and packaging to drive innovation and investment in recycling. There's a strong move towards bioplastics in packaging and waste collection. And lastly, there's a proposal to ban 6 single-use plastic items like straws, stir sticks, 6-pack rings, cutlery, and some food containers. So this is what's happening in Canada.
All right. Here in the US, we're seeing social and market pressures as well as we face sustainability. Packaging suppliers like us and brand owners and others throughout the value chain, we all strive to have a more sustainable approach to business, right? Our packaging industry as a whole, we've been working to reduce the environmental impact through initiatives such as lightweighting or using life cycle assessment tools. We're exploring novel materials and also just trying to extend the shelf life of products to reduce the overall product and food waste. Some of the brand owners out there and some of the retailers have committed to 100% recyclability by 2025. That's coming up upon us very quickly. It'll be interesting to see how that all shakes out. Here at IEF, we are working with a very large customer of ours. It's a major brand owner, and they're moving from an all virgin film to a film with a substantial amount of recycled content. It's all PCR or post-consumer material. We're fully commercial on that product. We are running it through multiple facilities of ours. And it runs extremely well. We have a very robust process with PCR. I think when we talk about sustainability, cost tends to be the biggest objection. So let's talk about cost a little bit. Companies, brand owners, everybody wants to do the responsible thing. They want to do the right thing for our environment. But then once cost gets entered into the conversation, brand owners historically have been reluctant to introduce products due to the high cost in doing so. But like any new development, as technology develops, it drives the cost down. And what I'm seeing now is different. Our consumers and CPGs are starting to understand that costs can be shared all the way to the consumer, and they're willing to pay a higher price for the product.
Plastics, they have recycle codes 1 through 7, and this is mainly for identification purposes, but not all of them. Just because it has a number doesn't mean that they can be recycled. Traditionally, PET, high density and low density polyethylene, and to a lesser extent, polypropylene and polystyrene are recyclable. There is a serious lack of infrastructure to facilitate recycling in the US. and the United States has among the lowest recycling rates in the world. Packaging materials that are monomaterial, that is made of the same material, for example, high-density polyethylene milk jugs or non-barrier PE films, they are recyclable either through a curbside drop-off or a store drop-off programs. However, when you look at multi-material, multi-layer films that enable flexible packaging to be efficient, and they provide key benefits like barrier or mechanical properties, they are not widely recyclable. And they most often end up as litter or in the landfill. And we need robust solutions to be able to recycle these materials. When we talk about compostables, in the case of industrial compostable materials, again, there's a lack of infrastructure. And this works only in the case of closed loop systems like airports and arenas, where the material can be collected and it can be sent off to a composting facility. Home compostable is a good solution, but material variety and availability is still an issue. And there are not always drop-in solutions or replacements to existing film structures. So bottom line, we need solutions. It could be monomaterial structures, for example, all PE structures where possible. We need recycle ready. So we need efforts to make multi-material structures compatible with PE streams, and we need significant developments in compostable solutions as well. So in addition to all these technical developments, consumer education I think is extremely important.
There's definitely a need for consumer education, Sumita. I see a lot of confusion among my customers and consumers as well. Just people are unsure on how to recycle their products. People want to do the right thing, but they don't know what's recyclable. They don't know how to recycle it, where to put it, or how it gets processed. There's a lot of confusion on the numbering system of 1 through 7. What do each of those numbers mean? And so, really it all starts with the consumer. There's definitely a significant need for education. During Sumita's presentation, she's going to do a presentation a little bit later. She's going to talk about the How to Recycle initiative. So take a good listen to that, because that's going to explain how flexible packaging can be recycled and how it can help drive collection of some flexible packaging using our current infrastructure.
Jenna, you're right. It's really on all of us in the industry throughout the supply chain to work together to not only educate the consumer on how flexible packaging is part of the solution, but to push development of new technologies, right, that'll make our products and packaging more and more sustainable. That's why here at IEF, we've developed our Integreen line of sustainable films, and Sumita is going to talk about that in her presentation. Sometimes people say, well, why are you doing all of this, right? When we started on this, we got that question all the time. Why are you doing all of this? Certainly, part of it is to respond to demands from the marketplace. And it's certainly not going to be easy to convert the current flexible packaging industry to a more sustainable footprint. It's really going to be hard. But for me, and I think for most of us here at IEF, I think we understand that we need to do it because, well, it needs to be done. It comes down to the fact that if we don't pay the price now, I think future generations will, right? And it's just the responsibility's on us.